Try this. Right now, silently, try to think about yourself without using your own name. Not your job title, not the person reading this. Just try to picture the specific continuous you that has existed since childhood without a word attached to it. It's harder than it sounds. And that difficulty is the whole point. Because tomorrow morning, in this thought experiment, that word is gone. Not forgotten, never invented. Nobody, anywhere, has ever had a personal name. At first, this feels like a party trick, a minor social hiccup. You just point at people, say, hey, use the guy in the blue jacket. Mildly annoying, maybe a little funny. But follow it for one single day, and the cracks don't stay small. Your doctor's office calls to confirm an appointment. Confirm it with who? There are 4 other people who share your exact hair color, your exact height, your exact neighborhood. A teacher tries to hand back 30 graded essays. A courtroom tries to convict someone of a crime committed 3 months ago by a person who has since cut their hair, changed their coat, and physically become someone the courtroom can no longer specify. A bank has your money. It has no idea. It's yours. Here's the uncomfortable realization sitting underneath all of this. A name was never really about saying hello. It was about making a person findable across time. Without it, every relationship you have resets the moment you're out of sight. Nothing can accumulate. No promise made on Tuesday can be collected on Friday because there's no longer a fixed summonon to collect it from. And once you see that, a much stranger question opens up. If names aren't just convenient labels, what are they actually doing to hold a society together? Start small, with something almost too obvious to notice. For most of human history, people lived in bands of a few dozen. In a group that size, you don't strictly need names. You've watched everyone grow up. You'd know their walk from behind, their laugh through a wall, their silhouette at dusk. Vivid, direct memory does the job. But the moment a group grows past the size where everyone can personally track everyone else, researchers who study social networks often point to a rough ceiling of a few hundred meaningful relationships a single brain can hold. That direct memory system breaks. You cannot personally remember the reputation of 5,000 people, 10,000, a million. So something else has to carry that information instead. A name does exactly this. It becomes a portable file. Attach a name to a person, and a stranger 2 villages away can warn someone else about them without either of you ever meeting. A reputation can now travel faster and farther than the person themselves. This is why some of the oldest surviving written records on Earth, clay tablets from Mesopotamia, thousands of years old, aren't poems or prayers. They're receipts, grain owed, debts recorded, and stamped onto nearly every one of them. A name. Not because ancient scribes found names poetic, but because a debt is worthless if you can't specify with total certainty who owes it. A name, in other words, is what allows trust to survive the absence of the person being trusted. Which raises an odd question. Why does a simple sound carry that much weight? Why does your brain treat a name so differently from every other piece of information? You know, human memory for faces is strange. It's excellent. You can recognize thousands of people you've met only once, but it's also unstable. Faces change with lighting, age, expression, a new haircut. What doesn't change is the label attached to that shifting sensory input. A name gives your brain a fixed point to hang a moving picture on. This might be part of why very young children lock onto names so early, often before they can form full sentences. They already respond distinctly to their own name over other sounds. Long before a toddler understands ownership, time, or authority, they seem to grasp that a specific sound pointed at a specific person lets them do something, get help, claim something, sort their tiny social world into people who matter to them and people who don't. And it doesn't only organize your view of others. Psychologists have observed something called the name letter effect. A small, mostly unconscious tendency for people to favor the letters that appear in their own name over other letters. It's a strange, almost silly, sounding finding, but it points at something real. Your name isn't just information you carry about yourself. At some point, it becomes part of how yourself is built, which is where the deepest version of this thought experiment lives. Take away names entirely, and you don't just lose convenience. You lose the anchor that lets billions of separate human minds refer to the same specific person. Consistently, across years, across cities, across generations who never met each other in person. Every large system humans rely on assumes this anchor exists. A birth certificate, a passport, a criminal record, a wedding ring exchanged with a promise attached to a specific name rather than a specific face. Because faces change, and promises need to outlast that change. Strip the anchor away, and none of these systems can function. Not because the technology gets harder to build, but because there's no longer anyone specific for the technology to be about. Humans built roads to move bodies across distance. We built writing to move ideas across time. A name does something almost as fundamental, and far less discussed. It moves trust across both distance and time at once, letting a promise made by one specific person survive long enough to matter to someone who's never even seen their face. That's the quiet shift worth sitting with. We tend to reserve our sense of wonder for things we can touch. Bridges, rockets, cities lit up at night. But some of the most powerful things humans have ever built were never physical at all. They were agreements, shared fictions that everyone quietly accepted and then built the rest of civilization on top of. A name is one of the smallest of these. 2 syllables, a sound a parent chose for you before you could speak, before you had any say in the matter at all. And yet somehow, that sound has been doing the quiet work of holding your entire life together, carrying your reputation, your relationships, your responsibilities, across every year you've been alive and every person you've ever met. You didn't invent your name. But without it, there may be no continuous you for anyone, including yourself, to hold on to at all.